Here we have another day, Wednesday the 12th of December 2018. Fairly slim pickings today for Wednesday, with most of the races with either small fields or the rail out a long way. Let's have a quick look at it. The day's summary. We end up having Balaclava, Rail and the True Posse, Bow Desert, the Rail and the True Posse, and Wyong, Moantarang, Rail and the True Posse. The other three meetings, Sandown, Rail out 9 metres, only small fields. Ascot 13 metres as normal, and Launceston out 3 metres. Ascot could be okay later in the day. Sandown would have been the go, but out 9 metres, a little bit tricky. We'll have a very quick look at a couple of races at Wyong. The first race, we have a look at the market. Here we end up having Witherspoon. This is clearly a pretty good 2-year-old, coming back as a 3-year-old, or in fact it came back once as a 3-year-old and ran okay. Has the 60 kilos, barrier 6 and first up. It has had a trial, could run well. The real question in this race is this horse Enjoy Elsie, who, first of 5, won by 4 lengths, leading on a soft 6. Now, gone are the days of these horses running slow times over 1,000 metres. If we have a look at the sectional ratings, the summary's already up. They're running incredibly fast times. Have a look at this Lancaster Bomber, 32.44 for the last 600. Host Win Saturn 33.66 and Enjoy Elsie 33.73. On a soft 6, 33.73. It's just an incredibly fast time, over 1,000 metres. And then run the last 633, and here's this one running in sub 33. The times are just incredible. Now, the thing is that Enjoy Elsie couldn't have been more impressive winning, but the only question now is, why has the Dream Team, Michael Wayne and John Hawkes, then decided to run it in a Class 1 rather than running it in a better quality race? So again, the trainers giving you a pointer to the fact that the horse is not that good. On the other hand, you could say, oh well, they're going for another kill in this race. From barrier 1, it's going to have to try to lead up. It does look risky at $2.40. Okay, in terms of who's going to win this race, well, it's a good question. It does look like a pretty tough race, given there's only 7 starters. Looking at the summary for this meeting, so we have a Class 1 and we have a few more maidens. Then we've got race 5, which is a Class 1. Then there's a 2-year-old. Finally, there's only race 7. So I'll have a quick look at race 5. Race 5, there is this horse Jazzland. Again, well, he's won a Class 1 last time, so there you go, he skipped the maiden. He's won it by almost 9 lengths, leading at the 400 on a soft 6. The sectional time is only modest, but it was 2100. You would have to be a brave man to be saying that this Jazzland is going to be beaten in this race, given that it's already won over around the same distance by an impressive margin. So, although the favourite in the first race looks somewhat doubtful, may still win, this Jazzland would be a horse that I would not be risking in this race. That brings us to race 7, which is basically the only race of any depth, for want of another term, something we can look at in terms of form. Again, the question here is whether or not this Everlasting Love, as the favourite, $2.30, whether in fact she's going to be able to make this jump. Now you'll note this time she's gone from a maiden to a 64. Now it is possible there weren't any other races around for those other horses to move from, you know, their maiden win or their first win to a better race. It's possible, but unlikely. So in this case, they're suggesting that this horse is better, although admittedly there's not really a lot of other races that she could have run in, I guess, going from a maiden A 64 is probably about the next move other than a Class 1. So the only question in this race first up is whether or not this horse is going to be able to be beaten or not. And the same thing, it's been winning, well, it took what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 placings before it was then able to win a maiden beating 5 horses. So the only thing you can say, it has improved with the distance, possibly. May have improved with the wet track, although again, it didn't win that race there. So it's a line ball decision in terms of if you think this horse is going to be able to step up in class and win this race with the same weight. So there is some doubt on this horse. Has got a good barrier, so it's pretty well placed to be B. So it was racing pretty much outside the leader last time and battled on too well to win. So it may well do the same again, jump out and be outside the leader. However, the pressure in this race should be greater than the previous one. Having a look at the market, we have the favourite basically at the bottom and the second favourite a fair way down. So in simple terms, this could potentially be a race where there is some value. Okay, whether it works out that way or not, can't say at this stage. So we'll go through the form for the race very quickly. So from the top, Rapido Chaparro. Again, these horses that move around generally improve. This one's come from a little bit further south. Has got a trial first up, and it did win first up over 1500. Pretty much this is first up over 1600. You'd think it would be beaten in this race, so I prefer Cyber Intervention. Excuse me, has run one race from barrier 11, beaten 3.7 lengths over 1300. Stepping up to 1600 metres, we don't really have any form here to suggest it's going to run 1600 or not. Has got one fail there. You'd be thinking this isn't going to win as well, looking at it, but it could be a place chance. Archie Barber, second last start in Port Macquarie Open. Now again, these open races are weak, so we've got a rough estimation here of it being a benchmark 70. Looking at the benchmark rating, it's only a 66, so again it's probably weaker than a benchmark 70, but still about that rating. 55.5, so it's gone up to 57.5, up a couple of kilos. Is racing well. Port Macquarie, you would say, is a slightly weaker track than Wyong, so you'd say it's probably slightly, can't say it's up in class, but slightly more difficult racetrack. This has to be some chance. Everlasting Love, this is the favourite, so again, if you're happy to take the shorts about it stepping up from maiden to a 64, then you'd have to say it with some chance, given how thin this race is looking. Sensakova, third of 7 over 1600. We don't have the benchmark details in here as yet. So 54 kilos, it's gone up to 57, so it's been slammed 3 kilos. Probably that would have been a 66, similar to the other one. So it's not badly weighted, and 6 days off, it's going to be fairly fit. This has to be some chance. Dreaming of Biscay. Now this is an interesting one ridden by Tommy Berry, winning a 1400 metre Gundagai Class 1, which was a 50. So now it's 57, so it's gone up 7. Came from barrier 11, but it is down 2.5 kilos, or down 5. So it's up 7 and down 5. Question is, looking at its form, it doesn't have 1600 metre form. So there is some doubt about it running the distance, and it's also got 26 days off. So they haven't exactly made it easy for the horse. So we'd have to say it's a place chance, looking at that. Classic Princess does have a 5th last start in a similar race with slightly more weight. Goulburn would be considered to be a weaker track. Did win at Newcastle, which you could consider about the same. The same thing, there's nothing really indicative here she's going to run a really great 1600 metres. On the other hand, there's nothing saying that she won't. There's only one run over 1600 there, and not beaten that far from a reasonable barrier. Still has a reasonable barrier. Must be some sort of chance, probably a place chance for Be The Go. And Prince High has been racing in similar company, and well, the last start was pretty poor. May have failed because of the wet track. If we have a look at the filters, we have a look at these wet tracks. It's run a couple of close-up races, but that's about it. If we look at just the good track runs, it's not really any better. So you'd have to be saying this doesn't look any chance, so I prefer. And we've gone round one time already, so having a look, sorting by some chance, we've got the top three, some chances being 4, 5 and 6. We're leaving Dream of Biscay, our favourite, out, our favourite for want of another term, and Cyber Intervention out as place chances. So let's have a look at the comparisons, if there are any. There's only one on May and one in October, so let's look at the October one. Classic Princess beat Prince High. Wouldn't rave about that. It's too long ago to worry about. And the sectional ratings. We've got Cyber Intervention that's run really fast last time. Over 1300. Very fast last sectional time. So that's pretty impressive, but it has to step up longer. Below that one, Everlasting Love, so the favourite. Also ran very well, very fast last time. Looking at, and that was over 1600. So she's got fast time over the distance, but admittedly it was only a small field. This is also a small field. Sensacova and Prince High are next after that. On the second last figures, we've got Everlasting Love on top. So again, the favourite's been running very fast times, followed by Classic Princess and Sensacova. So looking in terms of whether this Everlasting Love is going to be able to step up in class, it does look like she'll be able to do that. Whether she's going to be able to win this race, there's not a lot of depth to this race. However, very difficult to back a maiden horse stepping up in class. So I would say, looking at this race, having done this quickly and with no great consideration, I'd be thinking to take these three chances to win the race, and these other three, and that's too many horses to be taking in a multiple. So you'd have to be cutting that down. You have to be making some decisions about what you were going to do. In terms of win betting, I would be aiming to take the 4 and the 6, and I'd be saving on the 5 so you could break square on the race. I can't really be laying the 5 looking at the form. I'd like to lay the 5, but it does look like it's going to be a strong chance in this weakish kind of race. These other two horses, 4 and 6, are not that strong. So there you have it. That's the race for today. Again, it's not a race that I would be rushing to have my last 50 cents on, or in fact much more than 50 cents. The normal $100 we talk about betting on a race where you're going to have bet say 50% for the win, 30% on the Quinella, and then the last 20% on trifectas of first fours. I don't think I'd worry about that in this race. You might try taking the top 3 in a Quinella, 4, 5 and 6. So yeah, there you have it. That's the end for this meeting. That's the end for this race.